It's time to figure out what this truly means for Boston. What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Red Seat Radio. My name is Corbin, and thank you very much for clicking on this video. Today, we're going to be talking about what this Bregman signing really means. If you missed it last night, hi again. If you did watch this video this morning or last night, hasn't been that long. The Red Sox signed Alex Bregman to a pretty lucrative deal. If you want my full reaction to that, that's going to be pinned in the comments. It's also just simply on my page as well. But in today's video, we're taking a different look at this. We're truly breaking it down and talking about what this means for the Red Sox, starting with what this means for their expectations. This signing of Alex Bregman to a 3-year, $120 million contract, really, I'm kind of looking at it as a 1-year, $40 million deal because there's opt-outs after each season, puts them in contention to truly compete in the AL and truly compete in the AL East. And it's not just me saying that, the Red Sox homer who really wanted Bregman, it's statistics. Fangraphs put out their change in the Red Sox playoff odds with this Alex Bregman signing. Their odds jumped from 45.3% yesterday to 56.1% today. Adding Bregman to this team, according to Fangraphs' model, bumped their odds to make the playoffs up by 10.8%. And I got to tell you, that's pretty fantastic. And I think as Red Sox fans, we are genuinely in the area now of expecting this team to compete for a playoff spot. Not just compete for a playoff spot, potentially compete for this division as well. Because on top of Fangraphs upping the Red Sox odds by 10.8%, they also put them as the second best team in the division and not that far behind the New York Yankees, folks. The Red Sox are in the ballpark of competing with the team favored to win this division, and that's a really, really fun thing to say. This offseason, the Red Sox really put themselves in a position to compete. It ends with Bregman, but it started with Crochet and Buehler and Chapman, right? The Red Sox did a lot this offseason to truly put themselves into competition, and this is officially the time where we can say, yes, I believe the Red Sox are a playoff team. Not that I didn't think they were a playoff team before, but this makes them even more competitive in a division and league where things are kind of wide open right now, right? There's no true contender coming out of the AL. The Red Sox can now be one of those guys. So immediately, the first thing that Alex Bregman brings to the Red Sox is a higher odds of a playoffs. As for what he actually means for this team itself, I think the big thing everyone wants to talk about is what does this roster fit look like? How do the Red Sox fit Alex Bregman on this roster? Well, Jeff Passan last night, after he reported that the Red Sox had signed him, also kind of confirmed what we'd all been thinking or assuming Bregman was going to do. He confirmed last night that the plan for Bregman right now is to play second base. What does this mean? Well, it's kind of a good and bad thing, honestly. The good thing is that the Red Sox now get a veteran, experienced defensive wizard at second base with some right-handed pop that we're going to break down as well. This is something the Red Sox have been missing for a long period of time, right? There hasn't been an answer to second base in a while. So to get someone in here that you know is probably going to do a pretty good job defensively and do a pretty good job offensively is a really good plus for the Red Sox. Now, the bad thing here, and I'm going to say bad, kind of bad, right, is it kind of puts Vaughn Grissom and Christian Campbell's future, at least for the next 162 games, in limbo a little bit. You don't really know what you're going to end up doing with them. But here's the thing with that. I think a lot of people are immediately going to see that and be like, oh my God, I can't believe they blocked the top prospect or one of the top prospects in Major League Baseball. Vaughn Grissom was traded for Chris Sale. Oh my God, I can't believe they're not finding a way to fit this guy in. I think there's still very much an avenue for one or two of these guys to find their way onto the Red Sox roster. Grissom's a little bit of a different case. He doesn't have a ton of experience in the outfield. He wasn't a great defender at shortstop. You're going to have to figure out a way to find a spot for him on this roster. Now, that could be a bench bat. That could also be, we're going to give you another year in AAA to really hone in on everything. And that sounds like a bad thing, but it's kind of not. Vaughn Grissom, I think a lot of people believe he's a lot older than he is. He's going to be 24 this season. So even if he spends a year in AAA figuring himself out, bring him up next year and still get a whole lot of value out of him over the next 5-6 seasons because of how young he is. You don't have to have him on this everyday roster just yet. Christian Campbell, in my opinion, is going to be hard to block. Christian Campbell can play basically anywhere on the diamond. He can play outfield, he can play infield, all over the place. The Red Sox should be able to find a spot for him somewhere. Injuries happen, poor performances happen, and you only have Bregman for right now one singular season, right? You're not blocking them long term. You're not creating a roadblock for the foreseeable future. Right now, you just have to get creative. And in all honesty, with all of you guys, I've been saying this since the very beginning when we've been talking about Alex Bregman. This is a good thing. It is a really good problem to have that you have too much talent that could be a big impact at the major league level. It is always better to have too much talent and have to get creative in how you utilize it than having not enough talent and trying to create talent out of thin air, right? That's just simply a common sense thing, and I think that's exactly what the Red Sox believed in this Alex Bregman signing as well. Now, there is also a possibility that Bregman ends up at third base, right? I don't think that's totally out of the realm of possibilities just yet. It would have to include a trade of Masataka Yoshida. Feels next to impossible, but it could be on the table. It doesn't have to be immediate. The Red Sox don't have to trade Masa right now, but let's say he builds up some trade value over this season. You could move him at the deadline, move Bregman over to third base, Rafi DHs for half a season, and all of a sudden, you've got a ton of room to fit Christian Campbell and Vaughn Grissom in here. My point is, yes, it most likely is going to, for a little bit here, block or make it more difficult for these guys to be everyday impacts, but it's not going to change the trajectory of the Red Sox future. You don't have to trade Grissom or Campbell because you got Alex Bregman. It's a short-term deal, and these guys are versatile and weapons outside of second base as well, so you can find spots for them elsewhere. In my opinion, it's not as big of an issue when you're talking about the fit for Alex Bregman as it would have been for, say, a Nolan Arenado who only plays one position. You can move Bregman around, you can make him work, you can move Campbell and Grissom around a little bit, Campbell certainly to more degrees here, and make it work. You can find a way to fit the talent, and that's a really good thing. Plus, it allows the Red Sox to get more creative in the trade market. You could sit there and you could say, well, let's let Masataka Yoshida build up trade value. You could trade Wilyer Abreu. You could maybe possibly even trade a guy like, say, Don Rafaela. You've got a ton of options now in what you do next if you need to supplement this team either before opening day or before the MLB trade deadline. There are a ton of options here, and that's a good thing for the Red Sox. So yes, it's kind of bad news that you're blocking Grissom and Campbell, but you're also kind of not blocking them at the same time, and that's why a 3-year contract with an opt-out after every single year is kind of the perfect structure for a contract with a guy like Alex Bregman. As for what this means kind of overall for the Red Sox, Bregman being here, we've talked about it a lot in yesterday's video. I was just kind of shooting from the hip in that one. I did want to break it down a little bit more statistically for you guys as opposed to just pure adrenaline. So let's talk about what this does for the Red Sox lineup. I think it's going to do wonders. I kind of imagine what Turner did in a Red Sox uniform in his one season here, but with a higher ceiling. Even if you are nervous about the numbers falling off a bit over the last couple of years, there's one really important thing to remember about those statistics. The only stat that truly decreased for Alex Bregman over the last 3 years was his on-base percentage. And as a guy who is one of the hardest players to strike out in Major League Baseball, that's not me saying that, that is flat out statistics. I'll be honest, I'm not fully worried about him being able to regain that statistic. This is a dude that can hit 20 plus home runs, give you 30 plus doubles, a bunch of RBIs. That is an impact bat in the middle of this order. Not to mention, because of the way the deal is structured, he's going to be playing with the motivation of getting himself a longer term contract. The odds are this is probably a 1-year deal, especially if it goes well for Alex Bregman this season at Fenway. That is a lot of motivation for a guy with a really high ceiling, and I don't think enough people are talking about that. And what better place to sort of regain your value on the market, if you will, than Fenway Park. As we talked about last night, Alex Bregman absolutely rakes at Fenway. Statistically, what we're talking about here is a 1.240 OPS with 7 home runs in 21 games here at Fenway. That should be a whole lot of fun to watch in a full season. It also takes a lot of pressure off of some of these other right-handed bats in this lineup. Without Alex Bregman, Christian Campbell was looked on to be the big right-handed impact bat. Without any major league experience, Trevor Story was looked upon to be that big right-handed bat who's been injured for years now, I should say, right? He can now kind of sit back in the back middle half of this lineup and really sort of just focus on staying healthy, because if he can stay healthy, he's going to be a big impact offensively. You were relying on guys who were big question marks. Now you're not doing that as much, and placing his bat into the middle of this order makes it incredibly deep. Just take a look at it, right? The 1 through 5 before Alex Bregman came in, essentially to some degree, it might switch a little bit, but it's Duran, Devers, Story, Casas, Massa. Now it's Duran, Devers, Bregman, Casas, Story, Massa. All of a sudden, again, that's 6 guys at the top of your lineup who could be legitimate impact players, and that is a fantastic place for the Red Sox to be in. It's longer, it got more consistent, and it got more veteran presence. I also wanted to dive a little bit into the defense as well. I mentioned last season, Alex Bregman was in the 91st percentile in outs above average. What this means is that only 9% of Major League Baseball players had better range in their position defensively than Alex Bregman did. We also talked about this last night, but the Red Sox last season had the most unearned runs in Major League Baseball. Second base was their biggest problem defensively. It's statistically, they had the most negative defensive runs saved. Only David Hamilton had a positive defensive run save. Shout out Hammy, by the way. But what you're getting in Alex Bregman is a solution to that. It is going to improve this Red Sox defense, which in turn is going to make the pitching staff look better, and it's going to allow you to win more games. This isn't just an impact offensively, guys. This is an impact defensively as well. And I know there's going to be some questions. Corbin, why would they put him at second base? He's a third baseman. He's a great third baseman. I agree, right? If you can move Masataka Yoshida in an ideal world, I think the Red Sox do that. Because you can't right now move Masa, you're going to have to find him at second base. And there's obviously some concern of, hey, he was a third baseman. Why are we putting him at second base? Well, I'm not too worried about that. One, he does have a handful of games experience-wise at second base, and he looked really solid, by the way. But two, because Alex Bregman came up as a shortstop, because this was a guy who was a shortstop who had to move to third base, not a third baseman the entirety of his minor league career, he has some experience in the middle of that infield. It's not going to be a crazy transition for him to be able to play second base, and I think that's an important thing to note as well. So not only are you improving your offense overall, yes, we can have a conversation about what he does against lefties, but again, we talked about that before. This is more of a problem of Devers and Duran against lefties than it is about Bregman against lefties, and you're getting Gold Glove caliber defense. The last thing I wanted to talk about in terms of his impact overall on this team is that leadership quality. Again, something we addressed in yesterday's video, so there's not really any statistical evidence of this, so I'm not going to dive too much into it, but having these young guys surrounded by players like Devers, Story, and Bregman now, with Buehler on the pitching staff, Giolito on the pitching staff, will do wonders. It will make guys better. It will allow them to lean on someone who's not a coach, but a player with them every day in this clubhouse to figure out how it is to act as a major league player, to figure out how it is to win at the major league level. That is a very good thing for the Boston Red Sox, and in my opinion, the most underrated quality Alex Bregman brings to this team. And finally, this is the first time in a very long time that John Henry, FSG specifically, have sat there and they said, we want this guy. We are going to go above and beyond to make it happen. We don't care what the money looks like. We want him on this team. This is something we have been begging the Red Sox ownership specifically to do, something that shows us they are still committed to this team and committed to winning. And yes, this Alex Bregman is a short-term deal, but with the AAV where it's at, it's hard to deny that this move is exactly that. When we're bringing it out onto the broader scale, it's allowing us to put more confidence in this ownership group that they are still willing to do what it takes to put a competitive team on the field, and not a competitive team built savvily, built sabermetrically, a team that is built based off of who's the best available player. We want them on the Boston Red Sox, and that to me is an absolutely fantastic thing. So looking at it overall, Bregman alone is going to have a massive impact on this Red Sox roster. I know people are a little bit iffy about it. I promise you guys, this will all work out, right? Whether you're worried about his on-base percentage, take a look at his strikeout rate from last year. Tell me that isn't a guy who can regain that on-base percentage. Whether you're worried about Christian Campbell being blocked, I think it's going to work itself out in spring training. I also think it's going to work itself during the year, whether that be a trade, an injury, or a poor performance. Christian Campbell will be a part of the Red Sox. Even if it's not this year, it will for sure be next season. So he does a lot. There's not a ton of drawbacks. I'm excited about this signing. Still, I slept on it. Well, kind of slept, right? I got like 4 hours of sleep last night. I was so wired from the video, but I'm still excited today. Let me know what you guys think as well. What are you thinking now? What do you think the impact of Bregman's going to be on this Red Sox roster? Do you agree with these points? Do you think there's something I'm missing? Let me know all your thoughts in the comment section down below. As always, if you made it to the end of this video, do me a favor. Make sure you guys have hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. If you're new here, we talk Red Sox content almost every single day. Also, make sure you guys have hit the like button on this video as well. It just simply helps out a ton, and it's the best way to let me know you're enjoying the content. Thank you all very much for clicking on this one, and I will see you in the red seats.